Okay. Hi, everyone. And thank you for joining in today's spontaneous live stream. Yeah, sometimes I feel like I should just do these because most of my videos are recorded in a pretty straightforward fashion. I actually just start recording and then I start going and then I don't stop. I just keep on going until I'm done. Sometimes I do cut once or twice at most, but hey, let's just look past that. So today's video is about real versus fake personality traits, and it's not necessarily so that they are fake, as in that we confuse different personality traits with each others, and we confuse different sides of ourselves. So often, what we are doing is we are creating a fake image of our own MBTI type. So we're selling ourselves and our personality type in a way that is more or less incorrect, and we're giving it traits and abilities, and we're just like creating this image of our own personality type and of other personality types that is more or less a stereotype. So that's why I started my YouTube channel last year. I found that how do we distinguish between those real and fake traits? How do we understand them? And what I ended up doing was I said our personality type is a result of our values and our feelings and what is most important to us. Our dominant personality trait is the us that we are when we are in a state of flow, a natural flow. Our natural personality type comes off in flow. It is something that we just go about naturally, that we just do, that we just say with energy, with passion and conviction. And it is something that we feel very comfortable expressing towards other people. Still, there are some things that we tend to confuse with these things, and I'm going to go over the dichotomies. I'm going to go over the dichotomies and we're going to talk about them again. I made videos about this before, introversion and extroversion. You can watch these to get the more deeper idea. But in a nutshell, introversion is about the inner world and coming from the inner world. Extroversion is about the outer world and what we are interested in the outer world and what we like and dislike about the outer world. So there are connections we make about this, assumptions we make about this. A natural idea is, as an introvert, you can't be social. A natural idea as an extrovert is, as an extrovert, you can't be guarded or private. So these ideas keep coming forward over and over. People say, oh, I was out and I hung out with people, so I was extroverted. Really, extroversion is when we start going from ourselves to the outer world, when we start going from our inner perspective and our own thoughts and feelings to our opinions about what we experience in the world around us. An extrovert moves by evidence, clues, data, patterns, connections. An extrovert goes from information that has been presented to them, different forms of actions and events that are happening around them, their nature, their surrounding nature, and the experiences around them. The passion, nature, basically nature in the sense of the emerging nature around us, the systems, the animals, the people, the sounds, the music, the things around us. That's the external world. Where introversion, that is theories, that is basically that deep dive experience. And I want to be honest, I feel like sometimes I am giving a misrepresentation of my own personality type and of introverts. As an introvert myself, I'm a fairly social personality type, and I have many social personality traits. I tend to say introversion is something I want to express to other people. I tend to want to share my inner world with other people. I make YouTube videos. I have a community on Discord, and I am putting my theories out there in blog posts. So I'm freely putting my own thoughts out there. And I know a lot of introverts, they don't do that. And they look at my videos and they go, how can he as an introvert do these things? The fact is, there are quite a lot of social introverts. There are quite many of us, but we are not necessarily the norm, and we are not how all introverts are. And some introverts can be guarded and private. Some introverts will be likely to prefer deeper and more intimate personal connections with people. So we have the more social introverts, and we have the more sexual introverts. Sexual in the sense of preferring depth and intensity and intimacy. And we have the more home-oriented introverts. And home-oriented introverts, they prefer the privacy of their own home and of their own territory and their own boundaries. And all of these just are different reflections, different forms of development. And it is this that is the problem. We confuse our development with our nature. We confuse our values with how we have learned to be because of our experiences. And because I was encouraged to share my thoughts with other people, because other people were curious about me from a young age, asking questions, coming towards me, like accepting me for what I thought, I felt encouraged to put myself out there. But if I would have been and felt more rejected by the outer world for this, if I would have felt that the other people around me, that they didn't care, perhaps I would have become a lot more reserved or guarded. If I would have felt that I had a few people that I could share with, I met maybe one or two people that were really important to me. Maybe that built up the ability to be more intimate. Maybe I would only have a few people that I would open with, and maybe I would not share that much with anybody else. So development is different from personality trait, and extroversion is the same. Extroverts don't always have a social proclamation. Not all extroverts want to share. Not all extroverts want to put themselves on display. Not all extroverts are comfortable in this kind of a situation. Joey writes, I actually just made a video where I mentioned we should strive for ambiversion regardless of our temperament. An interesting idea, in my opinion. I believe extremes are dangerous. And I understand completely what you mean in that. And that's... I'm going to look up the video real quick. I'm going to share it so people can watch it later. Actually, how about give you permission? So, Joey, I made you a moderator. You can post a link in the comments down below if you like, so everybody can watch it later. So, okay. Extroverts can also be private. And they can be if their experiences of people and of their surroundings have been a little more reserved. People haven't been interested in them. People have been more critical of them. People have been more likely to reject them. And these extroverts, they're still going to be extroverts in the normal sense. They are still going to like patterns. They're still going to like possibilities. They're still going to like to be in nature. But they will be more careful with who they share these things with. Who do they share their nature with? Who do they go out with? Who do they bring with them to these occasions when they're doing and engaging in these processes? Perhaps they'll have a few people that they can go out with or engage with, but they won't necessarily engage or involve everyone in this. There are extroverts out there that involve everyone in what they are doing and everything that's happening all around them all the time. They're always sharing information about what they see and experience, sharing possibilities and giving it with everyone else. But there are also extroverts that are more likely to keep these things for themselves. And I'm going to have to move forward. And I'm going to have to move forward to intuition and sensing. And what I found is sometimes there is a stereotype that extroverted intuition is shallow. There is a stereotype that intuition is always deep. Introverted intuition is always deep, but extroverted intuition is always shallow. And I want you to imagine an infinity chain. You know, there are extroverted intuitives that find themselves going really deep down a rabbit hole. In the Alice in Wonderland version, like going really deep into something. And that actually happens quite often. There are extrovert intuitives that really start like digging into a subject or a possibility, and they become really fascinated with this possibility, and they start really like pulling, what else can I learn about it? What other sources are available? What other articles have been written about it? And they get everything they can about this. And this is a lot of the ENFPs I can imagine in the MBTI. You nerd on it. You go deep in it. And some extroverts do that. Some intuitives do that. Just as some introverted intuitives don't. Some intuitives go more broad. They are more about breadth than about depth. Yes, NE is like a wide lens. It's quite different from shallow. Yeah, it's about seeing and considering all kinds of sources. It's about every possibility that you can see in the external world around you. It's about an abstract understanding of the external world, where the external world and where facts and the reality around us is presented into a series of clues and secret doors and hidden treasures and things that are hidden beyond the rocks. So intuition can be about wanting to go underneath these rocks, and it can be about reflecting on this abstract world. Why is this abstract world here? Why are these things the way they are? Or intuition can be about how many connections can I make? How many things can I find? How many things can I see? What can be beyond that corner? What could be beyond the next? Instead of the analysis of the world, intuition can be about the exploration of the world. And there's the difference between the seeker and the sage. The sage seeks to reflect on the world. The seeker seeks to explore the world. So when you understand this, you also understand the difference between 5 and 7, and you learn that's something different from intuition and sensing. Intuitives can not only beyond this be about exploring the world or seeking to make as many connections as possible, but it can also be about supporting their connections. Some intuitives, like the 6, are all about verifying the patterns and possibilities that they see. Okay, so I see this chain. Is this chain going to continue? What's going to happen next? Do other people also see this chain? Have other people also noticed this pattern? How can I know this pattern is going to last? Is this pattern going to last? What's going to happen next? 6s are about testing what they are seeing, confirming, proving, getting evidence behind what they are seeing to make sure they are seeing things in an accurate way. And these are all just different flavors of intuition and sensing. The introverted sensor can find themselves seeking to constantly gain new evidence and new details about things. There can be the collector introverted sensors that are about getting as many different pieces of information as possible, documenting everything they do everywhere around them. Or there can be the seeking introverted sensors that are more about basically observing the things around them, observing their surroundings. What is that? What is that called? What is behind that? Introverted sensors can be curious, and we often assume they can't be. Introverted sensing is just this desire to define and map and organize reality. Introverted sensing can also be analytical. It can be about this butterfly I found. What is this butterfly? Am I really seeing this butterfly? What can I understand about this butterfly? It can be analytical. Introverted sensing can be analytical. Extroverted sensors can be about analyzing nature. Extroverted sensors can be about experiencing nature and having a lot of experiences. Extroverted sensing can be about supporting and getting information and verifying what they've learned about nature. What is this nature? What does it look like? Does all nature or does all environments look like this one? And so on and so forth. So my problem with a lot of the use of the MBTI is found in how we are kind of turning traits into something they are not. We go too far sometimes. I see people attributing being an introvert to what you like to eat in the morning, and to where you like to hang out in the evenings, or to what books you like to read, and to what music you listen to. And you're going too far when you do it. You're going way too far. And then you start focusing on tendencies. There's a difference between preferences and tendencies. You can have a preference for something, like this is what I am. And then you can have, because of who you are, you can have tendencies. Because I have this preference, I tend to wake up that time in the morning. I tend to watch these movies. I tend to do this. But I can sometimes do other things. And that's where a lot of people get confused. They got confused because they go too far. They don't set boundaries for their thinking, and they spiral too much from the actual traits to the tendencies around the traits, and then the tendencies behind the tendencies, and then the tendencies behind those tendencies. And what you have to do over and over again is take a step back, understand your real traits, understand what you do. So a common stereotype about feeling and thinking is play. Thinking is work. If you like to work, you're a thinker. If you like to play, you're a feeler. That's pretty common. We go into this definition of thinking where it becomes something quite, for some thinkers, boring. Like if you met an ENTP, you know this is not the case. You know, ENTPs don't necessarily always have a proclination towards play. The stereotype of the ENTP is the person that likes to play around with mechanics and tools and skills. They like to learn something, study something, master a new skill, and then they get bored, and then they do something else, and they just do it because they find it fun, because they're just interested in it. That's what they like to do. That's their passion. And then you have the workaholic ENTPs suddenly to back against that, the Enneagram trees. Enneagram trees, they are all about translating into work and performance. How good am I at something? How can I become better at something? What can I do to improve myself? What is my next step? What is my next goal? How can I get there from that to that point? Yes, Cedric Beachy. I'm a thinker and I like to play, and I'm an ENTP. The stereotypes come from focusing too much on tendencies. Perhaps you know a lot of INTJs. Perhaps you know a lot of, perhaps you're trying to describe something else than thinking and feeling. When you're getting down to it, feeling is about nuances, it's about quality, it's about experience, it's about feelings, it's about dreams, it's about music, it's about our personal sphere, the things that we consider personal, the things that we consider a part of who we are as people. When we think of thinking, what we're thinking of is what we consider objective or impersonal or logical or rational. So what we consider to be factual, what we consider to be correct, what we consider to be a good procedure or way to do something, what we think is a good strategy, or what we think is a good solution to a problem. What we're thinking of is our ability to explain or rationalize something. How can I make something personal, objective? How can I make what I'm experiencing to be the truth, to be objective? And I see a lot of INFPs and INFJs getting this trap. INF types are personal thinkers, not rational thinkers, not objective thinkers. A lot of us want to be objective thinkers, so we get caught up with trying to make our theories objective. We try to show everyone that what I'm thinking is actually quite rational. Everyone should think this way. It's actually objective fact. And we try to seek evidence to make sure it becomes objective fact, and we try to find ways to prove it. And while we're doing it, we're constantly neglecting our personal experience. Just because something is personal does not mean it's not going to have value. Something personal can have just as much value as something objective. What I'm giving you all is my personal thoughts on the MBTI. I'm not giving you the objective truth to the MBTI, the scientifically verified, data, evidence-backed. I'm giving you what I personally have come to find to be the case after introspecting on myself and who I am, after going into myself. And what you're all hearing here is I'm not that into play. Sure, I'm into creativity, but I'm not into play. I'm very bad at play. I'm very bad at taking time to play. I'm too serious. When people joke with me, I take it seriously. I take it as something serious. And I'm a creative feeling type. I'm not a duty-oriented feeling type. I'm not a play-oriented feeling type. I'm not a work-oriented feeling type. My feeling is not manifested into what I do at work. I don't really care so much about that. My feeling is not really manifested into a sense of duty or responsibility for other people. Sure, I can find that to be something positive, but it's not my primary concern. I primarily focus on bringing out my ideas and finding out who I am as a person and following my own path and purpose and who I am. And you're going to meet INTJs that are play-oriented, like Adrian Wong here in the comment field. And you're going to make ESTJs that are play-oriented. You're going to meet ISFJs that are play-oriented or work-oriented. And it's going to happen. And it's just what you're going to have to be looking at is, are they personal or are they rational? Are they objective or are they passionate? Are they coming from the perspective of the system or of the people? Are they coming off the perspective of nature or the objective world? So focus once again on the real traits, and let's talk about judging and perceiving. A lot of people misidentify me as perceiving type. And the reason for this is because I'm a very soft judger. I've always known I'm a soft judger. My first MBTI test gave me the result INFP. It was only because I had a mentor who was an INFJ, a psychologist who was in her 50s, that had studied MBTI for 20 years, that she was able to set me right and help me understand that I was actually an INFJ. And what she did was she told me about the cognitive functions, and she gave me all the facts and all the data, and she helped me understand what the difference was. And without that, maybe I would have thought I was an INFP for years. It could have happened because I confused soft traits with perceiving traits. And I think a lot of people do. Perceiving I'm going to have to block those comments. Christianity is welcome here, but don't spam, please. So perceiving is about application and adaptation. Judging is about goals and organization. How do we organize something? How do we put it together? How do we reach this goal? What goal should we reach? How should we get to a certain point? Perceiving is, how do we implement this idea? How do we apply this theory? How do we put this into practice? When I talk about MP, I talk about applying ideas. When I talk about NJ, I talk about speculating on an idea, seeing how it would go, seeing how it could happen, and seeing how it could proceed over time. So judging has a dimension that is often more long-term, where perceiving has a dimension that is often more short-term. Now, I'm a 9, Enneagram 9 type. I have a 9 among my Enneagram types. And the 9 is oriented by mediating. I'm a judging mediator. I focus on how I can find a long-term solution, or how I can set some kind of goal, what kind of rules, how I can do something to make sure it is fair for everyone. It's balanced for everyone. Everyone will like it. Everyone will agree with it. Everyone will think it's a good idea. How can I make sure everyone understands an idea or a decision or a long-term proposal? How can I make sure everyone's on board? I mediate my judging function. Judging types don't always mediate their functions. Some judging types slam their judging in the face of other people, saying, let's go this way. And everyone else goes, why? I don't want to. Let's just go there. Some judges do that. I don't. And because I didn't do that, I thought I couldn't be a judging type. Because I was the social type that liked to have community around me, I thought maybe I'm not an introvert. Because I was a creative type, because I was very deep and very analytical and went very far into theories, I thought maybe I was a thinking type. But what I had to keep on reminding myself was, my preference is for the inner world. My preference is for intuition. My preference is for the personal and for feeling. My preference is for judging. That's what I like to do. And I think you're going to have to do those kind of reminding things when you meet crazy ENFPs that are so far from you, so different from you. When you meet the INFJs that are so private and so guarded that they're not like you at all. Or when you meet INFJs like me that are so social and so chatty that they are not like you. And with those thoughts, I'm going to start ending my stream. Thank you, everyone, for joining up. Thanks, Gepping, for being here. Thanks, Susu, for being a sciencey INFP. Thanks, Iris, for that comment. Iris says, whenever I do something I really love, I always feel like I need to have an objective justification for doing it. And yeah, that's the IT grip for ENFPs. Trying to rationalize everything you do. You don't need to rationalize it. If you like to do it, do it. Thanks, Adrian, for joining up. Thanks, Cedric, for sharing. Thanks, Alia. When I say fake personality traits, I mean any personality traits that can change at any moment, anything that you could decide to do differently at any situation, things that vary, things that depend on situation, things that you always do a little differently each time, things that are you with some people but not all people, things that you have learned to do because of your parents or your environment or your upbringing. When I talk about real personality traits, I talk about things that you love to do, things you dream of doing, your passions, your purpose, what you find when you center in yourself, when you take time to sit down with yourself, get to know yourself, who you are, and when you take time to reaffirm yourself, speak out for yourself and what you're thinking. Thanks, Dazzling. Dazzling writes, hey, Erik, it takes a lot of courage to put our thoughts out there. INFJs take that risk in order to help others grow. That inspires me as an ENFP to start my channel soon. I'm looking forward to that channel, Dazzling. Feel free to send me a video when you made it. You can also join up on our Discord channel. And I'm going to pass the link down below. And everyone joining up, share your videos, share your thoughts, share your experiences. Iris is an ENFP and she can nerd biology and music all day. Yes, there are lots of ENFP nerds out there. Iris finds MBTI limiting sometimes because people say if you like a certain color or a certain music, you're not an ENFP. And hi, Saku, thanks for joining up. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And how can I ban this person? Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, I also want to recommend you check out Joseph.
Guys, how are you doing today? I am out.
I do recommend watching Joseph Kobusi's videos on YouTube after this. So do check him out. He's an awesome INFP with lots of growth advice for all INFPs and every personality type, really.